All right, we are here with a very special guest, Kyle Shoop, NCAA All-American for Lockhaven, three-time NCAA qualifier. Kyle, how are you doing, man?
Good to be on the show, Jude.
Yeah, hey, it's a pleasure. So how are you doing, dude?
I'm doing pretty well right now. I'm living in Lockhaven, helping out with the Madtown RTC, and just living my best life, coaching wrestling, doing what I love to do. So
Where are you right now? Still in Lockhaven?
yeah, I'm still in Lockhaven. I'm actually about from where I'm actually about 2 blocks up from where I actually lived at during school. So I'm very close.
Interesting. So where did you grow up?
I'm originally from Boiling Springs, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Boiling Springs is kind of a small town, so I like to use Carlisle as a reference point. So if you've ever been to, let's say, like Carlisle Car Show or the Carlisle Fairgrounds, I'm about 10 minutes away from there.
Mm-hmm.
So really small town. I think I graduated with like 167 people. So
Oh man, so you were double A all through high
yep, I was
school.
double A. Yep.
Dang. Well, how'd you get introduced to wrestling?
Um, in Boiling Springs, especially at the time, and we still have a very strong wrestling culture, but we won, I believe, 12 to 13 district titles, and that kind of started happening during my first grade year. So we had a really good high school team around that time, and it was just kind of the thing to do in the area. You know, we're not a real big school, and we have good women's sports programs. But I mean, if you look across the board at what the school's athletic teams have accomplished, obviously wrestling stands out in Boiling Springs. So that's the reason why I would say that I joined.
Mm-hmm.
And
Did anyone else?
all my friends at the time was doing it. So I just said, why not?
Yeah. Did anyone in your family wrestle? Dad, uncles,
Uh,
brother?
no, actually, I had my little brother wrestled, but no one before me wrestled or played anything like seriously. I think my mom was a cheerleader, but I don't think my dad played sports in high school. So
Whoa. So you were like
yeah.
first generational wrestling athlete. What was that like for your family? And like how were they supportive? They didn't really know what came with wrestling when you said I was going to join up, obviously. Cuz like I mean, especially in PA, like the commitments from like not only a youth wrestler but like the family and people surrounding that youth wrestler, like it takes a lot, right? Whether you're driving out to tournaments on the weekends or club practice or whatnot. So how was your family through all this? You starting wrestling?
My family was very supportive. So my first couple years in the youth program, obviously, you know, it's a learning curve, and
Mm-hmm.
it just wasn't. I wasn't anywhere. So if you were to ask anyone in those first couple years, like no one really thought that anything was going to come of me and my skills, obviously. But my family was really supportive of me, and we just kind of stuck with it. And local club, I don't know if you've ever been to Central PA Stars with Brian Morrow. Just eventually got introduced. I don't remember exactly how that happened, but we started going to that club, and Brian, I will credit him to a lot of my skills, really developed me from a young age, and then I just kind of kept going, and it was great. I actually like the fact that my parents weren't really serious with any other sports, because it made my journey really low pressure, I would say. They were always, like, again, really supportive of what I was doing, but they gave me my space, and it was really nice not having someone that was ever really on my back, so to say, or someone that was really um they were always there to support me, but it was really all me pushing, determining how far I really wanted to go.
Yeah,
So
that's interesting, especially at like, I mean, PJW youth, man, there are some crazy kids with some crazy parents. Like, it's wild. It's wild. And I can speak for PJWs because that was me, right? I wrestled PJW all the way up through. And I don't know, I was thinking about it the other day, but like, if you're an athletic kid and you have a place to train consistently year round and you have a crazy dad, you can place in PJW states, maybe even be a state champ. Extremely difficult, but like, you know, if you have that high level of motivation, a lot of energy, you'll do well in youth. That's interesting that, I mean, that you didn't really have anyone, I don't want to say like pushing you in the sense like they want, obviously your parents want you to do your best, but like that self-motivation that so often wrestlers will talk about, like, you know, whenever they make that jump to start going to the next level, it's not, you know, they're not wrestling for their parents. They're not wrestling for the coach. They're wrestling because they enjoy it. And it's that self-motivation. And that's interesting because when I was a kid, my motivation was on my dad. I did not like the sport. I did not like to wrestle. I would sit in the car and cry on the way to practice, like hated it. But yeah, no, in my experience, whenever it became a thing that I did for myself, my own motivation, then I started to actually enjoy it. So, well, were you always like that, self-motivated, I guess you could say?
Yeah. I was always really self-motivated. And again, things started clicking for me going into my third year. You could start seeing some potential. All these kids that I used to lose to and whatever, they started coming back and beating them, and then just kind of slowly over time built into, you know, going into high school, being a match out my freshman year at states, and then placing 3 times in the top 3. So, you know, the hands-off approach, it wasn't really, I wouldn't say hands-off, but more of a guidance approach.
Right.
I would say with my parents really paid off because like you said, I kind of worked out. I did what I thought was necessary, and I knew that I was working hard every single time I was in the room, and it eventually paid off in college and when I became an All-American. Mm-hmm. So I never ever felt ever burned out. You know, I never felt like I was ever doing this too much, especially like in high school or any other time where I just felt like I was doing too much. I always felt like I was doing enough to get where I needed to be. So.
And so Kyle, what was the first big tournament you competed in? Did you do like the whole, the youth circuit and go up into, you know, do the roller, whatever it was called? I don't even know. Did you do big tournaments up in youth and through junior high?
I guess you could say like my best performance that I had in the junior high. I mean, throughout, if we're talking schedule, if I wrestled my schedule the 2 years, the 7th and 8th grade, and I only lost 2 matches. But I mean, I did PJWs a couple of times. So the one time I qualified, I think I was in the 12th grade. I was not 12. I was in the 12th, yeah, I was in the 12 and under. Yeah. I was in the 12 and under bracket, and I made it to the finals. I actually lost to my former teammate, DJ Fellman, in the finals.
Way.
Yeah, and then so I tried again next year, and I think I got 3rd at the regionals, at the regional qualifier, so I didn't even make it to PJWs. But
take top 2.
Yeah, I was area 9. Yep.
That's brutal, because I know that when I was in youth, I qualified when I was like 9, like just got smoked. And then the next year I took like 5th. And then the year after that, like every time I was on the bottom of the age group, because it goes like 9 and 10, 11 and 12. Every time I was on the bottom of the age group, I would get killed like bad. And when I was on the top of the age group, I did okay. But that just goes to show, like in your example, you were a state finalist, and then the next year you don't even qualify for the state tournament. And that goes to show how tough, I mean, PJW, you know, Pennsylvania youth is. It's pretty brutal. So talk about your high school experience. What did, you know, your daily high school, you know, routine look for Kyle Shoop, you know, school and then practice wise?
Yeah. So I mean, we had Rodney Wright, Trevor Byers, great coaches. You know, I had a lot of guidance there. And we always had, especially during the season, we had a morning lifting 3 times a week. So I was in there before school, and we had practice after school, obviously. And so I couldn't put like an exact number on it, but I would go into, like I said, Central PA Stars, with some of my teammates and wrestle outside of there. And my senior year, I would I would probably roll around like 2 times a week outside of practice, but I mostly just stuck with that schedule. And a lot of the times it was like lifting, and then sometimes I'd go home and go for a run. So stuff, just simple stuff like that. Nothing, I wouldn't say I did anything like super, super out of the ordinary crazy. So
That's interesting. And did you wrestle freestyle at all throughout high school?
No, I actually wrestled. I wrestled one freestyle tournament and I didn't do well. Actually, I wrestled Ian Brown and Ryan Deal and Wyatt Keck, and
Nice.
yeah, it was a little bit of a meat grinder, and it kind of deterred me. And I was a freshman, and it just wasn't what I wanted to do at the time. Looking back on it, and if people are kind of curious, I think that you need to give freestyle more of a chance, because I'm working right now on competing at the senior nationals in Iowa, and I just feel not so much behind the curve, but there's things that if I would have worked on at that age, I feel like I would just have a little bit better of just knowledge of basic positioning, like defending guts and working on like trap arm guts and just some other things, you know.
Yeah. No, I mean, even Greco too. I feel like kids don't give it a chance. Not in the sense like, not saying you have to go pursue a Greco world title and anything, but there are things that when wrestling Greco, you can actually take from it and apply it to your folk style and your freestyle. Like I know for me, like all last year, I spent a lot of time like working on my Greco positioning, because my goal was to qualify for the RTC program. And to do that, you got to take top 4 in states. And I was like, in the event that I don't get it done in freestyle, I got to have a backup plan. And that was Greco. So, but even that, like, there's so much more to Greco in particular, like that I was able to take it and mold to my folk style, like primarily hand fighting and positional. So, I agree with you. I think kids need to spend some time and really like spend time understanding freestyle and knowing that it's a lot more than just throwing people on their heads and things like that. So I don't know. Okay, Kyle, you know, all through high school, you were a very successful wrestler. You know, like you said, you 3-time state place winner. You were in the top 3 each year. When did you know that you wanted to compete Division I?
So after my freshman year, I mentioned that I was a match off of qualifying for the state tournament. I knew right then and there, and my parents as well, we were very serious about wrestling at the Division I level. We knew right then and there. And I knew that I wanted to go to the next level. I knew I wanted to go to a Division I school. So I would just say, after having a solid freshman year campaign, I would say for what I accomplished and my wins, and you know, I knew right then and there that I was gonna wrestle Division I.
So, and then talk about the recruiting process. Was like, so I mean, whatever, you're a successful high school PA wrestler. Like a lot of colleges look at that. What was the recruiting process like for you, and what drew you to Lockhaven?
So it's funny that you asked me that, because it's ironic that, well, one thing I'll say is I didn't have the best SAT or ACT score, and I had decent grades. I had above a 3.0, but that's just one thing that really kind of hampered my ability to get into, let's say, like a bigger school. Like Rutgers was looking at me originally a little bit, but it eventually came down to that, and I actually got an identical offer from Edinburgh, Bloomsburg, and Lockhaven. And I remember going up and visiting Edinburgh, talking to Flynn, going to Bloomsburg, and I forget who the head coach was at the time. And then I came and I talked to Lockhaven, and the reason I came to I talked to Sky. The reason I came to Lockhaven was because I came up here a couple weeks to do some Matt Town camps, and I got to know the guys a little bit. It was a good time, and I just felt most comfortable here. You know, the coaching staff just felt like they really meshed well with my style, and it really, I think in the end that just obviously really paid off for me. And it's ironic again. So you had Tyler Vath from Sagerstown, the kid that I lost to. I had my state semis my senior year. He decided to go to Edinburgh, and my good friend and Virginia Tech standout, well, former Edinburgh standout, Virginia Tech standout now, Corbin Myers, was going to Edinburgh, and I didn't want to say I like wanted to follow him. I wanted to go somewhere different. So that's another reason why I chose Lockhaven, you know?
It's interesting. So, okay. What was that first year of college like for you? And how did you transition to D1 wrestling?
My first year of college, I would say, was probably the biggest regret of my life. What? I didn't really do the right things. I wasn't in the right mindset. Like, wrestling was the last thing that I was thinking about. And, you know, I'd say that my college career truly, well, I did okay. I was a match off of 500. I think I was 15-16, but so my last tournament I wrestled in the year, I think, was the Millersville Open. I had a couple good wins. I went 4-2. I saw my potential then. And then I would say my career really started the next year, my freshman year, that summer coming in. I had some tough guys in my weight that I had to compete with for the starting spot. And then something just clicked in my head, and I just said to myself, I'm like, I can either ride the bench, or I can work as physically as hard as I can every single time that I choose to come in and work out. And that just really propelled me. That summer, I made so many gains in my wrestling and my style. Everything just started clicking. And then when the season came, you know, that's when I excelled. You know, I knew that it was my time and my place from then on out. So
you had a rough first year. Second year, you know, you make the team and you qualify for the NCAA tournament, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
What was that experience like for you? You know, the NCAA tournament was the biggest tournament you've wrestled in your entire life. How were you were you, a redshirt freshman or a sophomore, right? Relatively a young kid. How did you go into that? How did you prepare for
that? I went 0-2 at the tournament, so I look back on that, and I was actually the last seed. So I would say that the one thing that I wish I would have prepared a little bit more for it, looking back on it now. But my attitude then and there was, I felt like I was just happy to make it, and I felt like it showed in my wrestling. And again, these are things that I look back on, and I'm like, wow, I wish I would have believed that I would have been there and I deserved to be there. I would have wrestled better. Whether I would have went 1-2 or 0-2 again, it wouldn't have mattered. I think I could have wrestled better, but I just went in there and I prepared like it was any other tournament. I didn't really, really change anything, I would say, too crazy. I didn't do anything too crazy. I just went to practice, did what I had to do, did a couple individuals, and that was pretty much it coming into that. Because I also didn't find out that I made it. I was again selected as the last wild card that year. So again, I was facing some uncertainty whether or not I even made it up until the selections.
So okay, but then your junior year, you had excuse me, real quick, just to clarify. So that year, that first year you qualified for NCAA, didn't you led the country in Tech Falls that year?
No, actually, that was my sophomore year. I qualified again for the NCAA tournament, and I led the country in Tech Falls my sophomore year. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what attracts you to Tech Falls and not necessarily pins? Like, what do you attribute to scoring all these Tech Falls?
I would just say every single time I went out there, you know, I really played into my game plan. I wanted to change some things stylistically. But I didn't want to change who I was. In high school, I was very well known for the tilt, and I just knew cutting down from 49 to 41 made a huge difference in my top game. I was riding guys at 49, and I was scoring a lot of points, but I felt like I was always losing closer matches because I couldn't ride out necessarily the best guys. And just making the transition and the weight cut really helped me in my game, and it played so much into my strength of my tilts, and I felt like I was way more of a monster on top every single year that I wrestled 41.
So, yeah, and that just, you stayed with your tilt and you scored a lot of back points and ended up getting tech falls. And man, that 4-point near fall, that's pretty dandy, dude, especially like compared to high school. So, I mean, like, for example, I was watching your match against Cade Brock, which is on YouTube, and it's awesome. But, first period, you get a takedown, you get a 4-point turn. It's a 6-0 match. 6-0 and whatever the blood rounds of NCAA tournament. If you're up 6-0 on a good wrestler, like that's saying a lot, right? So the NCAA does a really good job at rewarding wrestlers for top wrestling, and that by saying that they have a riding time point, 4-point near fall, stuff like that. So, all right. So next year you're 13th seed going into NCAA's, correct? Man, what was your mentality in entering that tournament? You said that, the first year you qualified for nationals, you're 0-2. And then was this the following year, your 13th seed at NCAA's?
Wait, are we talking sophomore year or junior year?
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'm confused then. I think I confused myself in my writing. Let's go to your junior year. Coming in the NCAA tournament. You're the 13th seed, and you make the quarterfinals, correct?
Yeah.
So what was your mentality going into that tournament?
I just feel like, again, everything was way more of a build up. I felt really, really honestly super disrespected that a lot of certain websites, and like, not that rankings ever mean a difference, but I felt super, super disrespected by a lot of these bigger sites, especially like Flow Wrestling. I don't even think I was in the top 20. And I just felt like that put such a big chip on my shoulder. And it wasn't even that. Obviously, it was a lot of self-motivation. But just going into that tournament, that year, I knew I did exactly what I needed to do. And what I mean by that is, a lot of the times I was working out three times a day, Monday through Friday. And excluding most of the times, I would at least get 1 or 2 workouts in each day of the week, each day of the weekend. Excluding competition days and stuff like that. I just felt that year going into nationals that no one was gonna stop me from getting onto the podium. And it was really funny. If you ask my teammates and my coaches, especially my roommates, the people that live closest to me, I just remember saying all summer, I said, yeah, I'm going to have to beat Cade Brock to become an All-American. I was like, I literally called a guy out. I knew that was going to be my blood round match. Like, I literally foretold it. And I just lived my life knowing that as of right now, I'm not as good as Cade Brock. As of right now, I need to do a lot more work. I need to catch up. I need to do a lot of things on my feet. And I just remember going into practice. Like I said, I'd work out with the team, but obviously I would just do a lot of things on my own and just work a lot of the skills that I absolutely knew I needed to have. Like that knee pull that I hit on him in the first period, and I hit on a lot of the other guys as well in the tournament. I felt like I practiced that literally till I got sick of it. And I just knew I just had my go-to moves and the things that I knew I wanted to hit. They were just all there at the tournament just because I knew I put in so many different hours. My confidence level was ridiculous. It was through the roof. I just knew right then and there in Pittsburgh that that was going to be it. That was going to be the moment that I got it done. And having so many fans, having 400 LHU fans, that crowd hype was ridiculous. My family, my friends, everyone was there to see me, my girlfriend. It was amazing. So I just believed that was the one tournament, and I regret the fact that we couldn't wrestle our senior year, but that was just the one tournament that just really stood out to me that in my life that I actually had a mission. I had something to go and accomplish to get there.
Oh man, that's wild. So first of all, you called out, you're like, Cade Brock, he's the guy. And lo and behold, you beat him in a, first of all, very exciting match. It's on YouTube right now. Kyle Shoop versus Cade Brock, blood rounds of NCAA's. Wow, that's awesome. All right, so Kyle, who was your primary training partner when you're doing all of this extra stuff? Who was there? Was there any specific person who was right there by your side when you're putting on all these extra hours?
Yeah, actually, Cole Manley from Altoona, former transfer from Virginia Tech. He was literally my right-hand man. He was with me through all this. He was the guy that I would grab. He gave me really, really, really good feels. Most of the time, he was especially like, I would try to mix it up a little bit in practice. Like, I like to wrestle Brenton Simonton as well. He's a Altoona guy, but I would wrestle him a lot during practice. But if I wanted to go in and get a workout when no one was there, Cole Manley was literally my guy. I would be in there pretty much every single time with him. The feel that he gave me, I just felt like it was a championship feel. So that's definitely that was my guy.
And that's really cool because it oftentimes, like, just being me and you're seeing these wrestlers up on the screen and you're watching the NCAA tournament, you see the wrestler, you see their accomplishments, but you don't see all that went into it, right? You don't see the practice, you don't see the extra, you don't see the partners, that got them to where they were. So that's very special. And like they say, like, it takes an army, right? It's going to take a lot of people to achieve a goal as large as, being an NCAA All-American. So, so Kyle, your senior year, you're building up for the NCAA tournament. We get blindsided by the coronavirus. What were you thinking going into that? The whole scenario. Were you scared of COVID, or did you have any suspicions that anything would happen?
Yeah, that's a great question as well, because one thing I just vividly remember, it was literally, I felt like it was a series. Like, I literally feel like I'm reliving it right now in my head. But I just remember, so I was an intern for Coach Moore my senior year. So I worked that whole year just basically doing some things that just kind of put a baseline of what being a college coach is all about. And I remember specifically, I forget his name. I forget who walked in, but a person from the athletic department literally walked in the one day and said, yeah, like, are you following this COVID stuff? Like, as of right now, like, you see all the stuff that's going on in China. And he said, yeah. He's like, well, right now we don't even have enough masks in the United States. And I just remember, like, that being brought up. And then the other moment I would just say that I vividly remember was the last practice that we had. So that was like kind of a precursor. That was before we left for the MAC tournament, like a week before, maybe a week or two. And then I just remember our last practice, and I just remember Coach Moore calling all of us in and saying, hey, we're going to practice today. We're going to go hard. We're going to do what we got to do. But just basically, I mean, I personally, I felt like I knew right then and there it was over. I felt like I knew that this was going to be it. But he basically said, we don't know what's going to happen. And just like along those lines, we don't know what's going to happen. So regardless of what happens, we appreciate the journey. We love you guys. Like, it's been really special to have all you guys. And I just knew when we went, so we practiced and then we went back in the locker room, and I'm pretty sure all the major sports associations, like the NBA, NHL, all these things were all put on hold, that whole cancellation, all that. And then I just figured it was a matter of time. Like, NCAA is a great organization. It's a big organization, but I mean, the cash flows that you're getting from those huge national professional leagues, it's, that's kind of a no-brainer for them at that point, and I just remember then getting a text later that night, like, hey, it's pretty much over. I just remember seeing it too on my phone, and I'm just like, wow. I always thought that I always still hope, is I always thought maybe something would, or someone, like an individual, would reschedule the tournament or something, or somehow we have some sort of private fund or something where we could just wrestle. And it didn't matter to me at that point. Because eventually it went from, I forget, it was like 6 people, because it was even before that. It was like 6 people, family and friends, then no fans, then canceled. So it was kind of it was just a progression, and it was just eventually. I just felt like it was eventually going to happen. We were going to get the axe. So,
man, and how did you deal with that? What, like, were you in a tough place emotionally or mentally? How did you process all this information?
I would just say that I went into pretty much like a state of just depression for about like a solid month and a half. Like I didn't really know. I didn't know what to do. It's like, wow, like I had such a schedule. I had such everything in my life. I just didn't realize how regimented I felt like my life was, how in order everything was. Going to practice, like doing all that stuff, and then that just ended. I just remember I gained weight. I was up to like 175 after that, probably within that week. And then, I wasn't eating right. I wasn't exercising. And then, like I said, just kind of I felt like I was spiraling downhill. Then once things started to clear up, it kind of got back in my own head, and I was like, it's okay. Like I just look back on it. And it just took me a while to just be thankful for everything that I did accomplish. And I'm blessed to, unlike a lot of the people at that tournament, I'm blessed to say that I'm still an All-American. I'm still had such a storied career at Lockhaven. And it just took me a while to realize that. And then I started getting myself together, started exercising again, started to get back to somewhat of a normal me. And now I feel great, obviously coaching. And it took me a while too, as well. I didn't know that again, freestyle and folk style are two completely different things. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I just knew then. It took me a little bit, but I knew that I wanted to compete in freestyle. Like I need to have some sort of closure to my career. And regardless of freestyle or folk style, I'm going to compete at least probably 3 more times and see how that goes. The result doesn't matter to me. It's more about the process. It's more about just learning new things, becoming a better wrestler, becoming a better coach. And that's the other thing too. I feel like that was one of my saving graces is I was just, I was talking to Scott, and I was just like, hey, like, I want to stick around. Like, I want to be here for these guys. Like, I can't leave I can't leave it after what happened. And I just knew that I had to be a part of their journey now too, because, after what happened to me, like, I just felt like I had to give back to this program that's given me so much. And I'm really thankful the fact that we're going to start the Ncaa Town back up, and I'll be the head coach of that. And that's awesome. That's what I want to do with my life, is coach wrestling. So
how long have you been like that? How long has your goal been to coach wrestling?
I would say after my freshman year of college, I had a solid year, and I knew that I wanted to be in the sport. I want to continue to give back. That's my thing, is I just look at all those people who helped me out along my career, who I can't even name, but they've taught me something, especially when I was little, having those people that would come do camps, come do clinics, and just be around the sport. I respected that. I knew that was the route that I wanted to take. And I was really thankful that Lockhaven allowed me to do an internship with Coach Moore. It was a 3-credit internship, and I was able to learn some of the ins and outs of college wrestling, see what exactly I needed to do. And that really piqued my interest as well. I knew that coaching college wrestling was the answer for me.
Yeah. So that's your final goal now, is to end up at a AA institution.
Yeah. I want to be a head assistant coach here in a couple years at the NCAA Division I university. We'll see what happens at Lockhaven. Obviously, our staff, we're at capacity right now. We got to see if anything happens, but Obviously if it's not here, I'm not opposed to going somewhere else, eventually. But as of right now, I see myself being in Lockhaven
Yeah.
for a little bit. So
you've talked about several times now about, you know, the coaching staff and your guys' relationship. And it sounds like you at Lockhaven, between your team dynamic and the coaching dynamic, it sounds like it's a very tight group of guys. What is the experience like at Lockhaven, on the team side of things? What is the dynamic there, and how did you fit into that?
I would just say we're a hard-nosed group of kids. We're top 20 program those last 3 years. So in Cleveland, I think we were 18th. In Cleveland, I think we were 16th. In Pittsburgh, we were 18th. But we're a top 20 team. We're pretty tight outside of it. I bonded really well because I'm an outdoorsy style type of kid.
Mm-hmm.
We got guys on our team that hunt and fish. We got guys that live to do that kind of stuff outside of wrestling. It's a great dynamic. I wasn't really like super, super close with everyone on the team, but I got along with everyone on the team. I would say that there was no one person throughout my career where I was ever just like, I really could care less whether or not I see you again. I care about every single person that's come with me through my journey, whether or not I talk to them or not. If I see them, I would, if I see someone, I would obviously go out of my way, go talk to them. And that's from people through my freshman to my redshirt year to my senior year. It's just, it's a great group of guys. We're pretty tight knit. Obviously you got guys that are closer, but it just is really nice to be able to have guys where after practice we could say, hey, like, do you want to go fishing? And people would come with me and go do that kind of stuff. And my relationship with the coaching staff, I would say that Scott single-handedly saved my career. He knew that my freshman year I wasn't doing the right things, and he punished me. Obviously, like, I had some of my scholarship money taken, and that was obviously, I didn't do anything for the money, but that was a wake-up call. And he never stopped believing in me, and never. He was the one that pushed me. He's the one that we sat down in his office and we had those hard conversations that I look back on now and I say, if that never would have happened, then I wouldn't never be sitting in here as an All-American. He looked out for me. And then Coach Carr is a great guy. Coming in, we didn't really have the best relationship, I would just say, but every single year that he's been with me through the program, and I can see it now, he improves a great deal. And that's the same thing with all of our coaching staff. They're improving. They want to get better at what they do just as bad as we want to get better at what we do. So that's what just makes everything work here, is everyone's on the same team, but we're all working together. And, it's a give and take relationship. And it was great also having Ronnie Perry on the team. He would kick my butt every single day. Like, if I would wrestle, and I still can't beat him to this day, but I'd wrestle him and he would just push me to the brink. And he was a fresh younger guy coming in, and it was great having him around. But I would just say that overall, I just liked how the team was pretty much all on the same page. Everyone that was out there in the starting lineup knew what they had to do. They were doing their job. They were working really hard. And the coaches were always there. If I needed anything, I knew I could have went to Coach Moore, Coach Carr, Perry at any time and told them what I needed. And they would have done their best to provide that to me or any of my teammates. So I would just say that it's just a really great dynamic down here. If you want to get better at wrestling, this is a great small town environment. And that's the other thing is too, I feel like I just meshed well. Yeah. Coming from Boiling Springs, I was never going to make it at a Rutgers, at a Penn State, at Big Ten, or just like a West Virginia. Any one of those bigger schools, that just wasn't me. That wasn't my personality. This school just, I feel like so embraced and accepted here. You know what I'm saying? I walk around and, obviously it's diverse. There's not just, country people here. That everyone's here and everyone everyone gets along here relatively well. So that's one of the things too. It's a welcoming place.
Man, okay. So Kyle, what aside from college wrestling, coaching college wrestling, what other goals do you have for your future? And even off the mat, what other plans or bucket list things you want to do with your life?
I would just say I'm going to continue to coach wrestling until my legs and my arms don't work. So that's something that I don't see changing in the near future. I would like to, the SNS Club, that was a great experience. And I really want to thank the Simonton family for allowing me to have that facility and work out of there. It was a great learning experience. But I eventually am working toward potentially wanting to open my own club up. That's just something I would like to. I'd like to, if we're talking about the pure essence of giving back, I feel like that's college wrestling is obviously a little bit different. You got all those people are already worked up to a point where they're good enough to come in. I want to eventually be a part of people's journeys into college. I want to be that guy that if I think this person could go to Division I and he doesn't have many offers, well, what am I going to do for him? I'm going to go through hell and back to figure out where this guy is going to go and help him through his journey. And I would just say right now I'm just pretty primarily focused on wrestling at this aspect of my life. But the other thing outside of that is I really want to travel a little bit. I want to get some money saved up here. And my parents are actually – my dad works for Carlos Syntech, and they're going to be moving to Scottsdale, Arizona. So one thing on my bucket list is I definitely want to go out there and see the Grand Canyon. So that's just the one thing with wrestling. It was just always such a sacrifice, and I'll never complain. Like, it's going to be completely different being on a bus now as a coach. I won't complain because I can travel however many hours. It's not about cutting weight anymore. I can go. Right. I can go to the hotel now. I can check into my room. I can go relax. I can do other things, and I feel like that again will kind of satisfy some of my itch for traveling because I just feel like I'll be able to experience way more things. It's not about wrestling, but I would just say I'm primarily focused on wrestling right now. Eventually, working toward opening up another club. And just traveling, because that's just the one thing that I haven't been able to do, and I'm really jealous. I have one of my buddies back home that's literally traveled all across the country in I'm trying to think, like a Winnebago style, like a small RV, but he traveled all across the country and the places that he got to see and stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I'm jealous of that. Like I want more of that in my life. I love Pennsylvania, and I see myself living in Pennsylvania, but I want to expand my views, my horizons, and go see some things that I never had before. So,
Kyle, are there any other hobbies that you pursue actively other than wrestling? I know you had mentioned hunting and fishing, right?
Yeah, I'm a huge bow fisherman. I love doing that. Yeah, I go out almost all the time. There's actually a spot in Lockhaven, about 5 minutes from my house, where I can go do that pretty much every day. And I live to do stuff like that. I love being outside, hunting and fishing. I occasionally do some hiking with my girlfriend, and there's plenty of places around here to do that. But I'm just more of an outdoorsy style kid. I love being outside. This is beautiful scenery. If I go outside of my house, I literally have, even though there's a big plant, even though there's a big first quality plant right there, I still have a great view of the mountains. So yeah, I would just say that, yeah, my hobbies include hunting. Actually, I would like to get better at hunting because, again, it's been really, really hard from a wrestling perspective. I don't really, again, they're in the same time. So I have never shot a deer. So that's kind of, again, that's one thing that you brought up, a bucket list. Like, that's on my bucket list for this year. I would like to get that done. But yeah, I'd like to shoot a deer. And when if I'm not wrestling, a lot of times I'm bow fishing or doing something outside. So
that's very cool. Kyle, I just want to thank you so much for coming on this episode of the podcast. Before you go, are there any last thoughts that you'd like to leave our listeners with, like little pearl of wisdom, maybe a nugget of information for them to take with them?
Yeah, I want to say one thing, well, two things actually. So, like I said, I'm starting the Matttown RTC is open in Lockhaven now. We're gonna start working on it. So if you guys can, please follow the page on Facebook and Twitter. We're gonna be putting out some information. We also have our fall classic coming up here. Again, off the top of my head, I do not know the date, but it is listed on that site. And obviously, I want to see a lot of you guys come out. Like, I'd love to see you wrestle in that, Jude. It's going to be close. It's going to be in the Williamsport at the Williamsport Liberty Arena.
Nice.
So, and we're just talking about just some advice that I would give anyone. Don't wait. Don't wait on things. The good things don't come to those who wait. I always thought, my freshman year when I was making mistakes and I wasn't doing the right thing, I just thought it was going to come. You know what I mean? I had Dan Neff. I had a returning All-American in front of me. But my biggest regrets in college and in high school were I just need to do a little bit more. It wasn't that I was so far off course that I couldn't be brought back, but do more now. Like I said, just do more now. Don't think of anything as a time to wait. Go after it. Go get it done. And then my big motto was when I became an All-American, it was just see it, believe it, achieve it. It's obviously pretty explainable. Just see your goals. When it comes down to it, believe that you can actually do it, and then guts up and go get it, achieve it. So. Yeah, that's all I really have for you. And I want to say thank you for getting on today and talking with me. It has been a great interview. So I appreciate all the questions. They were great.
Nah, dude, I appreciate you for being available. I've wanted to do this for a quick minute now, but I'm glad I'm finally able to get a hold of you. Actually meet in person at that dang Lockhaven camp, which was a lot of fun. But again, I really appreciate you, and to everyone who stuck around and listened to today's episode. So where is my mouse cursor? Awesome. All right. Until then, guys.